Now I'm gonna ask a little bit about the Multiac story and just and the thoughts behind it. But before I do, just while we were on Art and Lutherie's, we were saying about the refit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's like for you. You obviously go around the stores, but for us, the Art and Lutherie's that we've had have been absolute dynamite. And it's they're our best selling acoustic by far. And I think obviously the story, we tell the story because we love the story.
Yeah.
And the way that the wood is collected, and obviously the family business. So we love to tell our story as to the customers as much as we'd like to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apart from the fact that they play great and sound great, the rolled edges and just big punchy sound from this.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's obviously before you had these, your blues and your bursts and things. Mm-hmm. Was there was obviously a conscious decision that okay, we want to go from the ground up, and did you decide, was it an idea of this isn't doing so well, or this just needs a big breath of fresh air?
I think more the latter.
Cool.
More the latter. Yeah. I mean, our guitars have typically always done well.
Right.
And I'm of course it sounds like a thing to say when you work for Godin, but we haven't had any brands that don't work for us, or else we would have just stopped making them. So if we've been making all these guitars for, in Norman's case, 46 years, and in Godin's case, 35 plus years, and so on and so forth, it's because there's a demand for it and they work. But in the case of A&L, and this is maybe more history than anyone needs, but it's a cool story, so I'll tell it. When the company was still quite young, in maybe the early 80s, I would say, because it was before my time as well, there was a time when Robert had the one factory, and he had, and again, this is one man, one company, and doing this with a music store in the city still. He had these tops, and this idea of, I don't want to throw these tops away, and I got to keep them. And he had this idea. He also had factory workers, skilled workers that he didn't want to lose, because maybe he didn't have enough work to keep them around. I mean, we certainly didn't have the problem we have now with 2-3 shifts and not enough space. So he had maybe 10, 15, 20, I don't know, dedicated employees that had gotten really good at building guitars, and maybe come a certain time of the year, he just ran out of work for him until his new orders came in and said, right, I got to find a way to keep them paid. So I'll grab these tops, I'll make these inexpensive guitars. I don't need to make them profit. As long as my staff gets paid, my building gets paid, and the bills are paid, I can hold off until the new Siegel and Norman orders come in September and keep going. And I think that is a little bit, and this is a story that's not often told, but it's a little bit of the story behind Art and Lutherie, for example. So it's like, great, well, we've got these tops, I need to work, we'll sell them for, I think it was like $100 Canadian back then, which is, inexpensive guitar. But they're as good as anything else, but they're painted and they're fun, they had a different name, and that, in a roundabout way, that became Art and Lutherie. But Simon Godin, again, Robert's son, being a younger fellow in his early mid-30s, he looks at the guitars and says, these can be cooler, and that's the word. Like, they can be cooler. It's a lifestyle thing. Just like when we freshened up our spruced up our Siegel image a couple of years back with the new logo, new designs and new colors. It was the same thing with A&L. We haven't really made a different guitar, because if you play the old ones, they're just punchy and great sounding, and they're the same price points as well. We certainly haven't changed the price. But we've made them more appealing to today's players, and it's just a little bit more what people wanted. Maybe getting away from those colors were, it was
the market changes. Fashions change.
And the thing is as well is that I said this during your roadshow, so I'm aware that I'm about to repeat myself. But I've always said an acoustic guitar is the sum of its parts. Okay, so it's going to sound like what it's made of and who made it. It's the chef. You get 5 chefs and you get the same set of ingredients, and you get 5 slightly different dishes. So they're Godin guitars, but the ingredients are crucial with acoustics. They're important with electrics, but arguably I would say even more so with acoustics, because you're entirely dependent on that for the resonance of the instrument. So if you're using great timber, which we are, if you're taking it through the pressure testing, which we can go in or avoid, whatever, but it's part of the build process. We're essentially grading every single top is graded. You've got Adirondack bracing. People might, what's Adirondack? Spruce. Well, you can have, with Adirondack being as good as it is, very, very thin bracing.
Yeah.
So, but it's strong.
Adirondack is a mountain range, for those that don't know. The Adirondacks are a mountain range in the eastern part of North America, just below, where Quebec is, New York, upstate New York. And our type of weather, as opposed to the West Coast, where we get a lot of our cherry woods and other woods, the cedars, our part of the country gets really cold in winter, and we have really long, terrifically long winters. And what happens is the trees grow to be, like, the growing season is shorter. We have shorter summers, so they don't grow as thick. But the cold weather makes it that these woods are quite solid. So it ends up being the stiffest, lightest wood you can possibly use for bracing, and that's
which is what you want. Which is
what you want. Yeah,
it frees the top up. So and there's more that I could go into, but the point I'm making is that under the hood, we used that same word.
Yeah,
We didn't realise that we both did that. We both
Yeah.
used that expression, under the hood. Fundamentally, A&L was superb.
Yeah.
But as Franco was saying, aesthetically, it just needed an update, and now it's had that update, and we won in the UK Budget Guitar of the Year last year.
Yeah.
You know.
That was phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it was good, it was strong, it was doing okay. It wasn't that it was flagging, as Franco says. If something's flagging, we would stop making it. It's not cost effective. We can't do that. So it was doing fine. Now it's like, it's right up there.
Yeah. It's and it's funny because you sell some Art Lutherie guitars, people will start asking about Siegel. Selling more Siegel, people start asking about Godin. So it's the cause and effect, but the chain reaction is we're selling and building more guitars ever before. Maybe it's because they really like what we're doing with Godin. Maybe they really like what we're doing in A&L, or it's all of the above. But we've never been in a better position. Our company, in times when, you mainstream's talking about how the music industry is changing, and it has. How guitar playing is on the decline. I'm not so sure about that. I'm really not so sure about that, because ourselves, we build more guitars than we ever have. We sell more guitars than we ever have. Although there's definitely some truth to that. I can't speak to the other companies and what the other big American and Asian companies are doing, but we always like to say we're the biggest small company around, and we're the smallest big company around. And in today's climate, economically and in the industry, it's the best place to operate. So we can change with the times. We're not stuck to a historical guitar. Says, well, people only want this guitar, like we talked about the S6 earlier. We can say, well, we can build a better guitar, and we will. We don't have this historical sense of, I only play an old Godin. No, I have the newest Multiac, and they sound phenomenal. I have the newest A&L. They look great, and they sound better than ever. Robert had taught me when I was a pup in this industry. He had said, and much like James said, I was just someone that played guitar and never thought twice about what it was. I just liked him, and I knew what I liked. But he had said, a guitar, an instrument, even if you don't have to spend a lot of money to have something that'll sound better with time. And he still says that today. Like, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars or pounds to get a good quality guitar. The guitar's got to be made from good material, and you got to, of course, care for it. But he said, at Godin, we strive to make a good acoustic guitar for 400, 500, 600 pounds. That'll become a vintage instrument if you care for it, take care of it, and just play it. And playing the guitar is essentially all you need to do.
That's all you need to do.
And that's what we do.
And it's a cheesy line, but it's true. When customers come into A-Strings and they pick up a brand new Art Lutherie or Seagull, it's come out the box, it's been put on the shelf. That is the worst that guitar that's the worst it's going to sound.
Yeah.
It's only going to get better. So if you like it in the shop.
Yeah. Unless they have me demonstrating a video, in which case that is the worst that it'll ever sound. Then it'll grow from there.
I've heard the stories.
I haven't, but I'm not sure.
I'll tell you later.
You're right.
Yeah, trust me.
Yeah.
So we mentioned Multiac a couple of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, for most people, I imagine you say Godin, and that's probably the guitar
that they think of. Yeah.
So where was the inspiration? Where did this come from, and sort of where are we now, and where are we going? Do you think with the Multiac?
Well, that's okay. That's a lot of questions. In a nutshell, Multiac, the predecessor to Multiac was the Acousticaster, a guitar that we still make, which is essentially an acoustic guitar made for an electric guitar player. You know, or another cool way of saying it is it's a feedback-less guitar. So of course, over the last 20, 30 years, specifically, things have gotten louder. Amps are getting louder, more powerful. Drummers on stage.
People are getting deafer.
Wedges. People getting deafer. Yeah. So it's guitars today, over the last little while, are taking in more volume, and of course, a regular acoustic guitar with the sound hole will have a lot of feedback issues. So people will try feedback busters, and they'll try various pickups, and there's a lot of good solutions for it. Robert's idea was a guitar in a small chambered body, like an electric guitar. It feels like an electric guitar, but plays like sounds like an acoustic, plays like an electric, and will not feedback at any volume. So you want to play with your fingers, you want to play with a pick, and that was the Acoustic-Caster, but in its very basic, most basic form. Over the years, that became a nylon guitar, and we now have the ACS, which is a solid body nylon guitar, which is phenomenal because you can do anything you want with it as a solid electric player playing a nylon guitar. And of course, the Multiac line, which is, there's too many models to name, but of course we've got the big bodies, the Grand Concerts, which are for classical players. Doesn't have a sound hole, doesn't feedback. You've got 13-pin capability, so you can use your MIDI sounds and with your rolling units and whatnot.
And that's got the classic, the nut width.
The nut width like classical. And then, of course, the non-classical players with small hands like myself will play to a regular Multiac nylon. And I don't play with my fingers. I'm horrible with my fingers. But I can play with a pick, and it doesn't sound like I'm playing with a pick. So, a fellow like me who's just a Canadian rock and folk kind of player can get on stage or even sit on my couch with my Multiac nylon and become a gypsy player or a Latin player overnight. So there's all these reasons, but the Multiac, of course, from jazz to rock to flamenco to classical, it's become synonymous with the Godin brand, and we couldn't be prouder. And as far as where it's going, we're moving into maybe less 13-pin capabilities and more focused on different types of pickups. We're working a lot with LR Bags these days.
Nice.
Company that we like and we enjoy a good relationship with.
Yeah.
In fact, the new Doyle Dykes signature model is a steel string Multiac version with an LR Bag system, rich light fingerboard. It's just a powerhouse, all-purpose acoustic guitar. And if you've seen Doyle play, and it's, what he does with it is epic.
It's kind of a flat picking type, but that doesn't even scratch the surface.
Exactly,
he's amazing. That guitar is
but it's everything you'll ever need from an acoustic guitar in one, and you can use it just about anywhere. Or as we like to say it's a no sound check guitar. It's got the EQ. You just get on stage, you just get everything flat, it's ready to go, and then you can just adjust as needed. This year actually we also have a brand new gypsy guitar. So it's a gypsy jazz guitar, our very first. We just debuted it. We had it at the NAMM show, but we debuted it at the Music Mess a couple weeks ago because we had nephew of Django Reinhardt, name is Ismael Reinhardt, contacted us to our German distributor, said, "I've heard you made a gypsy jazz. I need to play it." And he's
word got out.
Word got out. Yeah, because we talked about it at the NAMM show, and nephew of Django, and all the weight that comes in, of course. But he's a phenomenal player, a great guy.
Yeah.
Heard about the guitar, wanted to play it, came in, played with it, just had a ball, and then said to us, "Love the guitar. Maybe you could do this with the neck to make it more of a gypsy guitar. It's a little chunkier," and gave us some feedback. And Robert said, "Right, well, we'll do that." Because
that's cool.
Because that's what we do. We listen and say, all right, well, we're making gypsy guitars. It's Canada. We know gypsy jazz somewhat, but not as much as the actual players. And listening to them, we built them a guitar that they can play live. No feedback. Easy to play. Easy to transport, and extremely versatile. As we've done with the oud. I was
just going to bring that up.
Yeah, I also work in Turkey. I also handle sales in Turkey, and the oud, the traditional, is it a, 800-year-old instrument? I'm not even sure. It's impossible to tune. It's difficult to hold unless you're sitting down. Almost impossible to get a proper pickup. And again, an oud player today, playing on stage with a drum kit and bass and all these loud volume, they've got a lot of challenges. So Roberto sat and listened to one of their top oud players from Turkey. He said, "Can you build a Multiac version of an oud?" He says, "I can try." And it took us a couple of years, the design team, and back and forth. And we came up with oud. Same scale. We had to specifically custom design a headstock with the tuners because it's a very particular tuning. rich light fingerboard, of course, but the same scale. So it's an oud. It's a thin body, so they can now stand, and of course it has the Multiac pedal system. Yeah. So they can now stand up like a guitar player and join the band, and they can easily tune them, and they stay in tune
and plug them in.
Yeah, plug them in. Yeah. And then from that, the American North American players like myself and maybe yourselves said, "Brilliant! How do you play it? Because it's fretless and it's nylon. It's got 11 strings, and I don't even know how to tune it. I have to, the Moroccan tuning." So we came up with a steel string version with small, thin frets, mandolin style frets, so you can still do all the the sliding about as an oud. But it sounds like something between a 12 string and a lute.
Sort of mandolin. There's sort of mandolin in there as well. Yeah.
And we effectively invented the instrument, and we called it the Inuk, which is a Canadian Eskimo word. So.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places we can go. We get asked all the time, can you make a Russian guitar? Can you make all these? And the World Series of Guitars is an interesting area for us because we're working in a lot of world markets.
Yeah.
And we're making guitars that Western players like ourselves can embrace. So, all right, we can play these and have some fun with it. But
which was kind of one of the original things with Multiac.
Yeah.
It was, you think of the time, in sort of 80s, mid-80s, you've got these big, like, heavy metal bands doing these big proggy sort of things like Metallica and stuff like that. They didn't have a nylon guitar that they could plug in.
They can actually play live,
with no feedback problems, It's like, that's kind of where Multiac kind of has its roots in kind of almost exposing these different genres of music, like flamenco and but to players of, just really sort of carrying on from what you were saying, to players that are used to having a flying V. Do you know what I mean? It's like you can play Multiac.
Yeah.
And it's not going to feel weird.
No. Yeah.